Well, US President Barack Obama got the chance to meet Russian President Vladimir Putin face-to-face to make his case about the crisis in Syria. The two leaders talked for about 2 hours on the sidelines of the G20 summit in Mexico Monday. Their body language may give a clue about stress in the relationship.
We discussed Syria, where we agreed that we need to see a cessation of the violence, that a political process has to be created to prevent civil war and the kind of horrific deaths that we've seen over the last several weeks. And we pledged to work with other international actors, including the United Nations, Kofi Annan, and all interested parties in trying to find a resolution to this problem.
The US and Russian presidents have agreed that the deadly conflict in Syria must end, but they failed to set out a plan on how to stem the violence. Speaking after a week of Cold War-style recriminations, Vladimir Putin said he and Barack Obama found many common points during their talks at the G20 summit. However, there was no concrete sign of a narrowing of differences over tougher sanctions.
We agreed that we need to see a cessation of the violence, that a political process has to be created to prevent civil war and the kind of horrific deaths that we've seen over the last several weeks.
The suspension of the UN monitoring mission in Syria over the weekend has added to pressure on Obama and Putin to act decisively to keep the conflict from spiraling into civil war. The UN says more than 10,000 people have been killed by government forces in 15 months of rebellion.
President Obama knows that the U.S. economy and thus his re-election chances may be seriously infected by the contagion spreading from Greece to Spain and elsewhere if this problem is not contained. The election results in Greece had him breathe a sigh of relief.
The election in Greece yesterday indicates a positive prospect for not only them forming a government, but also them working constructively with their international partners.
But the president knows the road to solve the European economic crisis remains long and arduous. Already U.S. exports to Europe have slowed. Mr. Obama is pushing Europe to stop applying temporary band-aids as crises erupt. But it's been like herding cats to get all 17 Eurozone countries to agree on anything meaningful, such as establishing one powerful organization to police and insure all the banks throughout the 17-country Eurozone.
Acting together to solve global problems is the aim of G20. As leaders arrived yesterday, it was clear that one common concern did unite them: the Eurozone crisis and the risk it poses to the global economy. President Obama sought private meetings, first with the German Chancellor and then all European leaders here, for an update on their plans to tackle the crisis and to find out if they'd be giving Greece's new government more leeway to meet the terms of its bailout. At their own separate meeting, leaders of the so-called BRICS countries said they'd add billions of dollars to the IMF's emergency fund, set up in case of global fallout from the euro crisis. India's Prime Minister called the international economic situation deeply worrying.
Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh has said that mere austerity measures may not be the only solution to the prevailing Eurozone crisis. He was addressing the plenary session of the 7th G20 summit in Mexico. Dr. Singh said India is committed to execute tough internal reforms like curtailing subsidies in order to kickstart growth process. The Prime Minister announced that India would contribute $10 billion to IMF's $430 billion fund to tide over the Eurozone crisis. Calling upon the G20 to send a strong signal that Eurozone countries will make every effort to protect banking systems, Dr. Singh expressed concern that the resources available may not be adequate enough to deal with spread of financial crisis.